welcome back. We're going to finish up the back end of season 5, episode 7, No Man's Land, also known as a fucking masterpiece. We come back to our favorite pair. Serena is going to be naming her kid Noah, savior of mankind, by the way. Wow.
Yep, savior of humanity.
Word. And I am glad that she didn't choose Fred Jr. because you know that's what it would have been if Fred was alive. We fucking know it. There's no way it would have been a cool name. It would have been Fred Jr. I know it.
I don't know about that. I think that Serena would have leaned into something extremely biblical.
I don't know.
I mean, it tracks with her whole character.
There's no Fred in the Bible anywhere?
There's a Fred in the Bible.
No Frederick?
I might be mistaken. Maybe in like a new rendition. Like maybe they modernized a name and turned it into Fred, but I don't think that there's a Fred in the Bible.
All right.
So I'm going to politely disagree with you there, Scarlett.
Okay. It was nice to have dreams, though.
Is that your dream?
All kidding aside, though, the conversation they have after this is a lot. Let's pick this apart, shall we?
Yes.
I don't know. Do we have to? Was it worth it?
What the fucking fuck? Okay. Yeah. So were you guys taking this as I was? Like, June asked it seriously in a very broad but twisting the knife sense, like, was everything you did to me and humankind worth it for you to finally have your baby?
Right.
Or was it a more simple, wow, that shit hurt like a motherfucker, didn't it? Was the little bundle of joy worth it?
Former, not the latter.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I'm glad that you were also picking up on that.
Yeah. Yeah. And Serena picked up on that as well because she looks at June and she furrows her eyebrow and she said, right now, I think it was. And says it in a very serious tone. I'm inclined to think that if Serena believed it to be the latter, where it was all that pain worth it and like all that pushing and now you're a new mom, how do you feel? Then Serena would have answered that with a touch more joy in her voice and in her answer. But no, I think it was understood between the two of them what the implication of that specific question was. There's no mystery there for either of them.
Agree.
And I think that Serena's answer is too much for June to handle, and she needs to pivot back to the exact, the child at present, as opposed to the big picture world stuff, because her next question is, how's his latch?
Yes.
Yeah, I see that. I was thinking it differently, but I can definitely see how that was it. But I don't know. I guess I just thought that we've seen June really fight and not over anything. She doesn't choose Hannah over anything. We saw her not choose to get Hannah out, to send the kids back. But she really did fight tooth and nail for her daughters to either get them out or to get to them at various points, regardless of the circumstance, regardless of the people that died along the way. Like we saw Hannah's Martha and, just various people that have just in general. I feel like she can understand that notion, especially in that moment as Serena's finally holding the baby that she had just said, I've waited for so long and I've wanted you so much. And love her or hate her, we all know that's fucking true. And so June asking that question and then her giving the honest answer, I feel like June at least respected that it was the honest answer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think she could understand how in that moment, especially how she said, right now I think it is, because right now it's just so fresh and new and anything would be worth it, And I think June kind of understands that.
Yeah, I'm sure she understands that, absolutely, as a mother. But I can see June wanting to break the tension of that moment.
Pivot. Yeah, for sure.
But when they get into that little, it's basically a segue into mommy guilt.
It is.
Because it starts off with breastfeeding and then it goes into June talking about just all the difficulties she had with Hannah and then as she was older and then working. And this is an opportunity for June to remind Serena, hey, yeah, man, having these kids, huh? Crazy. I had mine. I had one. Remember that one? Mm-hmm. This is what it was like with her. This is the, these are the feelings that I had with my baby. And it's kind of, it's putting that mirror in Serena's face, but very gently.
Yeah.
But then also kind of like imparting wisdom about how like you're going to go do this parenting thing. And sometimes it's not going to feel good and it's not going to feel like your fucking fairy tales, Serena.
Yes. Yes. So true. Yep.
Yeah. And then we get real serious again because Serena asks her, June, why didn't you kill me? And, you know, and she doesn't mean like, you know, during birth or whatever. She means at the info center. And, you know, I want to say to my surprise, but really I'm not surprised that she said I didn't want to.
Yeah.
Because I just knew it that day when she was at the info center. And then the hesitation was straight up. She just didn't want to.
Stop calling it info center. That's what Serena is calling it, as a propaganda piece.
And that's, yes, okay,
It's
fine.
not the info
propaganda center. The propaganda
Yes,
center.
propaganda center.
Okay. I'm just,
Remember, Putnam said we will take your idea into consideration and hung up on her. It is still a Gilead outpost. It is not an information center.
whatever the fuck they're calling it. Why didn't she kill her there? It was, I think it was pretty plain. I don't think anybody really like thought June was hesitating out of fear or because of her baby. I think she really didn't want to. I think she wanted to stop killing people. I don't think she wanted Serena to be one more, like in her, you know, one more notch in her belt,
Yeah.
so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I definitely agree with that. And I think that obviously Serena, a lot of June's torments were at the hands of Serena very specifically. But I still think that June, especially with all of her time in Gilead and her time in the Waterford's house, remembered that her and Serena were in the same boat more often than not.
Mm-hmm.
And she can see that as much as we know that like Serena is seeing that she's the handmaid this season. I think that June was always able to see the similarities between the two of them,
Yes.
just being women that have to live in Gilead.
Yes, and that's what I was thinking too when June said I didn't want to. I think June had the realization a little bit earlier than Serena by a few days, but I think and in the quiet moment that they share as well, I think that they were both realizing that the system is their enemy and not each other. And though Serena was instrumental in creating the system, she is as much a product of that system as she is the creator of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think that like this moment right here, Serena is finally on board with understanding that it is not June that she hates. It is everything about what June was, or like the fact that June was fighting against the system that Serena helped to create, which is the closest thing Serena had to a child at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there seems to be a mutual understanding at this point that their hatred was not necessarily specifically for each other, but for what the conditions that they were in created of them.
Yeah. You know, it reminds me of what Janine said to June in the bottle episode when she was about to kill Natalie.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, she's one of us. You can't kill her. She's one of us. And I think June realizes that Serena is, as much as Serena doesn't want to admit it, she's one of all of us.
Right. She is still a woman at the end of the day. That is, or rather, she is still a human being that is seen as less than within the social construct that they find themselves in.
She's starting to realize that maybe patriarchy like hurts everyone.
She just had to experience it for herself.
Well, at least she realized it after experiencing it for herself and didn't make any excuses.
You know,
about.
it's more credit than I was willing to give her at this point, I will say.
Yeah.
I was never expecting to get this episode.
Same.
Ever.
Man, we've wanted it for so long.
We have.
Everything I've ever wanted.
Yeah.
Serena
This
was
is so
this episode.
great.
It was such a ride because I thought it was going so many different ways. And still, I've got so much more coming up.
Yeah. Oh my gosh! And June's face when Serena says that the baby looks like Fred.
Oh my God, that was hysterical.
Yeah.
Hysterical. I've had this episode, like when I get ready and stuff, I'll put it on the background just so I can kind of get like the dialogue in my head. And I cannot not look at the screen every time that she says that. It is so funny, the look she gives him. But I do think that I just want to jump back for 2 seconds with June when she says to Serena that I didn't want to. It felt like that she was surprised herself Like, this was a revelation to June as much as it was to Serena.
Yeah.
Like, she had to really think about it because she's been on the brink of, like, wanting to kill or hurt her or get back at her throughout this whole episode. Like, we keep seeing her, like, push it back, stifle it away. And so I do think she was a little surprised to be like, yeah, you know what? I actually don't want to. And then just kind of release that for a moment.
Yeah.
Totally. She's like, this is fucking weird for me too, believe me.
But yeah, I love the way she looked at him like, you're fucking kidding me, Fred.
I loved how we get into even more humorous stuff because, I mean, of course Serena is a creationist.
Of course she is.
Of course she is. That was so fucking funny. I appreciated that so much.
Me
but
too.
it turned serious pretty quickly. Again, because Serena says, do you think he's going to be like him? June's answer is friggin' perfect. Everything that June says to her is perfect. And everything she says holds a mirror up to Serena's face. When Serena says, I want him to have everything. And June's like, yes,
Yeah.
we all do. And you're not special. You're just not special.
We all want that for them, Serena.
But I do find that it's weird that that was Serena's response to June's last sentence, which was, this is going to depend on what you teach him and on what you tell him is his to take. Yeah. And her response to that was, I want him to have everything. That doesn't give me hope that she said that as a response to that.
I definitely agree.
Deep-seated patriarchal thinking is very difficult to break. Let's give Serena a little bit of credit here. She's progressed by an inch or by a mile today. And again,
I know. I'm expecting a lot.
I can't believe I'm defending Serena here.
What the hell's happening?
In this exact moment.
I mean, I think I'm going to jump on board with you, though. I do agree with what you're going to say.
Like this is a return
it's the same thing as the last thing that we were just talking about.
It's a return to her normal character.
Well, and it's just kind of in that moment that like the weight of all of it too, of like, is it worth it in this moment? I think it is, and for her, June is giving her these really heavy but really great life lessons of how to raise a son. And I think her response is very much what every mother wants. It's exactly what Serena's saying, or what June responds with. But, it is alarming of you have to teach him what he can take. And she goes, I want him to have everything. But yes, it's kind of true. Like that feeling, that overwhelming feeling you have of I want to give this child absolutely everything. Yeah, every mother feels that, Serena.
Yeah.
You are not special in this situation either.
Serena needs deprogramming.
She definitely
needs so much deprogramming. And she needs to understand how to teach her kid consent someday. And goddamn, I'm concerned about that. I'm not going to lie.
She's got a lot of deprogramming. That's exactly what it is. I was definitely thinking about that. And like because we've seen her mother, like this is definitely an ideology that she was raised in and brainwashed in. And it's going to take her time to see that there's another way. But she's seeing it.
She's starting to. And then you cut to June.
You know what I really loved? I'm sorry. Just a stupid little thing, but it made me feel so comforted through that whole scene. All that conversation is that baby breathing in the background. And
the baby snuffles.
The greatest noise to me in the entire world. And I just loved it so much.
Trying to figure out when that would have been filmed. I'm like, were they using her actual baby?
Oh,
it's possible. I mean, she had the kid in December of 2021, baby. So I'm just not sure when they filmed
that baby don't look like Fred at all. It was the cutest little baby.
It was a very cute little baby. I'm sorry, it was making snuffle noises.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, I really did not notice that.
Yeah, they eat and their little...
It just basically sounds like a little kid with a stuffy nose just breathing. That's it.
Their little smushed up face.
Yeah.
It was very cute.
It was.
We should check the credit roll to see whether or not I see the child credit.
Oh yeah.
That's a good point.
We'll come back to that.
Yeah.
So we cut to June, and it looks like she's watching the sunset, and she's being very contemplative at this moment, as one is when they're watching the sunset on a dramatic television show. And then Goes inside. We see Serena sleeping on the hay, all swaddled up, all like angelic and cherubic looking with Noah. And June has resolved herself to getting Serena somewhere safe inside. Serena ain't having none of this.
It's a safety issue for her. I get it. You know, she's reluctant to spill the tea about her quasi-handmaid life.
Mm-hmm.
And I was dying when she was telling June what this was like. And she ends with, "It's like I'm you." And June is just like, okay, no, excuse me, but
that's
we
all well and
immediately go
good,
into
but-
something else.
That's all well and good, but no.
Yeah, like, okay. Yeah, and I mean, I admire June for stuffing that down and moving on to what was really important.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Can we back that? I'm sorry, am I
Go
cutting off
nuts. No, I'm laughing.
This scene really messed me up. And then it might be a little darker on the screeners, so it might be a little bit more prominent if you watch it with a darker screen like I had initially, but it's still there. When she goes back inside after watching that sunset, and it does feel very like contemplative and dramatic as it should be, and she goes in and Serena's like sleeping but also could very well be dead. I was so very thinking she was dead for a second. And then because I had already had that like, it's like you'll never exist, and I'm like, oh my God, they just had that conversation. Serena's had her moment, and now fucking goodbye, Serena. And as June, it's not like very obvious. It's only for a second, but as she like leans over to check the baby, Serena is all in the light, and June is dark. She looks, it's the same imagery as when Eleanor died.
Mm-hmm.
When June killed her, whatever we're calling that. And it just felt like, you know, when she looks like an angel of darkness at the funeral, like that's what she looked like as Serena's all like lit up and June is just in the dark on the other side. And I was like, is she gonna smother her with that blanket? That primal blanket? God. Like I went to a couple places. I'm like, is she just gonna pick this baby up and peace out? Like I really wasn't sure what was gonna happen there, but apparently none of that.
Should have given June the benefit of the doubt, I think.
I don't know. I was still going back to that look on her face when she first held that baby, and I was like, what is happening? Mm-hmm. That felt very much like that season.
Oh, it definitely did. Well, Serena has a fever. And do we think that her diatribe about June taking the baby was fever-induced, or do we think she actually meant this? Like, I appreciate that she said, I can't go to Canada. I can't go back to Gilead. It's over. I don't have a future. That doesn't sound like the resourceful Serena that we know. That doesn't sound like the stop-at-nothing tenacious Serena that we know either, who will break down barriers and walls just to get her foot into the boardroom where women aren't allowed.
That sounds like a Serena that wants to die.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I was wondering. I'm like, does she want June to take her baby and then just leave her here? Like, not send for help or like, what?
Mm-hmm. That's what it felt like.
I mean, but I don't know. I understand where it would feel incredibly daunting for her. I mean, she's in a barn, and she has nothing, literally nothing. And then she has this baby that she has to take care of. And she's probably just, and also she comes from this background where if you do not have a man when you have your child, like that's it. Like you know, she shouldn't even exist. Yeah, I could see where she might just be thinking like, you know what, June, take my kid and just peace out. You could do a better job of parenting than I can because obviously I'm not that great of a person.
Yeah, I felt like everything that she was saying, I think that if anything, that fever and everything that she's been through just really took the filter off of her. But I do think I all of my notes through all of the things she's saying are just these little parentheses of holy fucking shit, it's happening. Holy shit, Serena is being genuine. Like these are all things that like she was saying truths that I never thought she was going to say. Like she's come real close to saying Nicole wasn't her daughter, but she said, Nicole, your daughter.
Yes.
Like she, you know, when she said the things that Fred did, the things that I did. Like that is owning it in a way that I have never thought that I would see Serena own it. And you know, our friend David on YouTube, I forget he had said that with Lydia, the difference between Lydia and Serena in the last episode is that, Lydia being a true believer, when she sees the light, she changes. And I do feel like Serena did see the light through her quick and her brief Handmaid experience. But it really did show her the light in a way that allowed her to finally have empathy for anyone else in the situation. But it could have been, the dehydration and the fever that's finally bringing this out. But I do just really think it was genuine.
I do think it was genuine. I think that the fever probably helped, but it is very Serena-esque to start spouting Bible bullshit, but when she's going on about how June being an avenging angel,
yes,
and to which June says bullshit. And this Bible passage is Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 43. Rejoice with him through heavens, for he will avenge the blood of his children and take righteous vengeance upon his adversaries. I can't say words. Adversaries. Now, here's the thing. She says that, but she leaves off the end, which was, and will be merciful unto his land and to his people. Why wouldn't you put that in there?
Because it's Serena. Selective religion.
Well, I don't know. I was really, really impressed with this Bible verse that she managed to pull out, because this is a different Serena. This has changed. This is everything that we've ever seen with Serena, unless I'm misinterpreting the Bible quote, so check me. But everything that we've ever seen with Serena is she hides behind God's will, but it's Serena's will. And this is the first time that she's finally admitted maybe God's will is not Serena's will. And then on top of that, she admits that she might be God's adversary. Right? Am I wrong? Did I not understand that?
No, I think that's I think that's reasonable. Admittedly, I'm not super well versed with Deuteronomy.
I don't have context for this, so
I just have the actual quote. And so she's saying there are avenging angels that rain down. She's saying that June's that avenging angel. Right. So June is avenging God's will, which Serena has not.
Yeah.
She's Serena. So rejoice with him, and he will avenge the blood of his children. So Serena caused the blood of the children. And take righteous vengeance on his adversary. She's the adversary.
Okay.
There are still angels. Maybe that's what you are for me. You're going to take my baby and rain down this. That's how I took it. Was maybe I'm way wrong, but I don't know.
No,
I thought that was definitely Serena being like, you know what? I fucked up. God's here to tell me I fucked up. And for the first time, I was like, oh my God, she thinks she should die because it's God's will, which again, June tells her, this is not the way you think. And the way you're thinking is wrong, but that's that brainwashing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just how I took that, I guess.
I think that's a really great way of looking at that, though, because that the Deuteronomy quote is coming on the heels of what you were saying about Serena finally accepting culpability for her actions and what she put into place. And really owning it.
Yeah.
I don't have any qualms with that. Scarlett, what's your vibe?
I don't have one, because I don't want to, I don't know. I feel like I need more context for the actual verse. I only looked up the verse. I didn't look up anything surrounding it and stuff. So I feel like I want to know what the actual, what the full background intent of this passage was before I say that it could apply here. You know what I mean?
Yes. Well.
Yeah. And I just didn't have time to go into that. So.
Can we jump back a little bit? Because I really, really loved, we've been talking about that everything that Serena's been experiencing this season and these little subtle new shades of how Serena's going to be able to experience a Handmaid, right? And she got the Handmaid choice. So June asks her when she doesn't want to leave, she says, do you want to watch your baby die in front of you while you slowly die of sepsis? Yeah. And the alternative being, or go to the hospital and potentially go back to being a handmaid. And that is the choice that June, the non-choice that they always say June had was, do you want to die or be a handmaid? And that's basically what they're asking, what she's asking Serena. And I loved it. I just really liked it.
Yeah, the non-choice.
And when June told her, before she launches into the whole avenging angel quote, she says, June, I think God sent you to me today. And that's the thing. We've always been annoyed with everything is always, well, that's God's will. And then it's it's just insane the amount of things that Serena will twist to decide that this is, and Gilead in general, right?
Mhm.
Like that's the whole
Yeah.
thing. And June goes, "You came after me." Like
Yeah,
again,
right?
just got this God's will shit. Like it's no. And then it's really doubled down in that flashback. Even Lydia says it in the earlier scene when the doctor comes in and she's like, "You don't hear what they're saying, but you figure it out, obviously." And she just goes, "It's God's will." And no, it's God's will. And June's watching this going, "This is God's will that she's just going to die. We're not even going to try to save her." And that's when she goes and is resourceful and gets the car out, you know? But yeah, they're really, I feel like this whole episode cutting away any of this God's will. No, the Gilead is not God's will.
No.
And June says as much.
Yep. And the result is that these people are treated like vessels and they die.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cattle,
Mm-hmm.
livestock, we keep seeing it.
And Serena quotes Exodus, building of an ark.
Yeah.
And again is looking at June as the ark that Serena has built. So Serena says, "Maybe I'm the ark, maybe I'm the vessel." And I mean, again, it's the twisting of the scripture to suit what's happening and what she's experiencing in this exact moment. We'll say this, that shot of Serena crying onto Noah
Mm-hmm.
was staggering.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
These two really need to get a fucking Emmy.
Yes, Noah did a great job acting in this scene, I agree.
No. Not the kid. Not the kid.
Come on,
Obviously. Clearly. Best supporting blanket.
Aww.
But Serena keeps saying it's God will, and June whispers God's will. And yes, to your point, Marjorie, June starts remembering Aunt Lydia's words. Win of Clarence is spliced open,
Mm-hmm.
and goes into a fantastic monologue.
I loved it. It was so good.
Yeah, a vessel. That's what you thought I was. What we were. And you didn't care who we were, where we came from, what we wanted. None of that mattered to you, to any of you. And Serena can barely choke out an "I'm sorry." And June gets the opportunity to finally say to her, "I don't care that you're sorry. We mattered. We are. We were. We are people." And I forget. I missed a line and that's why I'm going to save.
We have lives, and that's why. We have lives.
We have lives.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm going to save yours.
Yeah.
Because this isn't Gilead, and I'm not you.
Serena doesn't think that she deserves to be saved. And I'm like, I'm not going to argue with you here. But June's like, yeah, bitch, not about you. It's for him. Look at him, your baby. You know that guy? And again, I like what she does here because she's really driving home the point that this is your tiny baby who only knows you, your voice and your smell. You're his mother. And that is God's will. In that moment, I almost hope Serena was feeling the pain of like every fucking mother that she, I'm sure, inadvertently fucked over by taking their children away. Like now she knows, like she gets it, like she's marinating in it. And she's thinking, oh my God, I did this to so many others. And Serena is just so goddamn thick and so brainwashed that it literally took this for her to understand.
She lacks basic human compassion.
We think she was raised to be told she's a vessel her whole life.
Yeah.
And when you've been told that, it's hard to see yourself and anyone else as anything otherwise.
Yeah.
And I think that's what really this episode hammered home to me. Was like, she really, I forget, we danced around it mentioning her mother a lot this season, but like it's the ideology that she was raised in. Her mother's awful, but it's the ideology that her mother raised her in of like even dragging her back after everything went down with Fred,
Serena
to
didn't have a
drag her back
chance.
home and be like, you don't have a place in this world without your husband. Like, yeah, of course she's gonna think she doesn't deserve to be saved. It's probably not for the right reasons still, but like she's, I just get it. get how it took this long for Serena to see this. I guess in the end, I didn't get it for a while.
I know. It's been a journey for Serena, just like it's been a journey for June.
Oh, that monologue, that speech at the end. And that's you know, when you were saying like what's happening on her face when that baby was first delivered. And I was saying that I think she wanted to really hold the mirror up to her at that moment. I think this is what she wanted to say. You know what I mean? And it hit home better here than in the very first seconds after that birth.
There's a good chance that if she said it to Serena in that moment, that it might not have even registered in the long run. But after, when she has the moment to really actually reflect on what this has done to her in her life and what she's done to so many others, now she's going to remember. She's had time to pause and reflect.
And if nothing else, she has significantly less hormones running through her, like all those endorphins, which I'm told that you have like a massive amount of endorphins that run through your system, like right after birth.
I think so. I don't remember.
Definitely have them like
oxytocin is a thing,
especially with the nursing. Like that's all I think of.
Yeah,
like,
I don't
like
remember.
Listening to that baby breathing was what was like, oh man, is that just like triggering the like oxytocin of nursing?
Potentially. I think my favorite line in this entire episode, though, is this next line that Elizabeth Moss delivers so brilliantly and so powerfully. And if you don't get what it's hearkening back to, stop watching the show right now. You're lost. Game over. But just to hold up Serena's chin with just enough force that you can see her fingers start to press into her flesh. It was not a gentle caress, and just say, "Do you understand me?"
Outstanding.
Those 4 words alone. And Serena's pathetic nod of yes. And I think Serena understood in this moment exactly what June was referencing as well. Like, how could she not? And for June to say explicitly, I am in control of this situation. You are not in control of this situation. And this is what we're doing because it's the right thing to do. Not because I want it, not because you want it, but because this is what needs to be done. And therein lies the difference. When Serena was screaming, "Do you understand me?" to June as she's curled up on the floor in fetal position, it was because it's what Serena wanted. And in this case, it is June saying what is right.
Yeah, the delivery and the context, everything, it was different. There was exactly what you said. There was compassion.
And power.
Yeah.
True, genuine power, not the power of someone playing dollhouse.
June has so much more wisdom about life in comparison to Serena.
Yeah.
That's one thing that we glossed over, rightfully so, but I do want to go back to it because I've laughed at Serena since season 1 every time she shows how stupid she is about how naive she is about pregnancy.
Oh, yeah.
You know, when she was like asking June right after she forced her to sleep with Nick, and then she goes, "Do you feel different?" And she's like, "You don't get pregnant, you don't feel different right after he comes," or whatever she said. Like, and it's just so Serena. Like, she just never had a clue. She always was very obvious that she had absolutely no idea what it was like to be pregnant, and she desperately wanted to. And so when she was having that contraction, from one of the first contractions in the barn, and when it's over, she goes, "Was that it?" And June just goes, "No." And I was like, "Oh, Serena, you are going to be in for it."
Yeah. And there was also one point that Serena said, "Make it stop," and June just goes, "No."
Shall we new scene?
Yeah. I think June actually made her point and made her point well. And Serena understood that the right thing to do was to do the selfless thing and make the non-decision, but also make sure that her child would be best taken care of, because that's what a real mother does, is get your child to the best care possible.
Yep. And Serena needs care too.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. Like, you don't fuck with postpartum fever. that is dangerous. When they get to the hospital, June promises she'll stay as Serena is taken away. Like, what planet are we on now? It's weird, but I kind of love it. But I kind of hate it, but I kind of love it. Like, it's great. Yeah. And June calls Luke when Serena goes in. And that's going to have some implications soon, in like 5 minutes.
Technically, she called Moira.
Huh?
Technically, she called Moira.
Oh, well,
She called Moira.
Oh, okay.
Moira answered. Yeah. It was a woman's voice.
I was just thinking, like, I
Because
just
she didn't know.
was
Remember, she
thinking,
kept
like, they're
asking.
calling a house, but who the fuck
Yeah.
has a landline?
Oh.
So that's all I was thinking of, and I didn't realize
Right,
Moira
right,
picked
right.
up.
Yeah, no, because remember she kept asking Serena too, like, what happened to Luke? What
Yeah.
are they going to do with him? June missed the part
that's
where they
right.
said we're going to
Yeah.
drop him at the border. She
Yeah.
never heard that. So,
Oh, that's right. Yeah, she still doesn't know where he is
yeah, so
or
she
that he's
called
even
Moira,
safe.
and then
Okay, that makes sense.
I'm assuming Moira told her on the phone. But.
I was also screaming into my TV at this point, just call Twello, damn it. Just call Twello. You know you have his phone number memorized.
Why are we calling 12?
What? I'm sorry?
Why do you want her to call 12?
Call Twello?
Yeah.
Because you need a man to help, like, with the whole the diplomatic situation that you've just put yourselves in.
Oh.
You know how now are harbinging an illegal immigrant in a Canadian hospital.
True. I was thinking of Twello, like, how burned were those bridges between him and Serena? Like, if, you
Get a
know,
quick
if she
wedding
was desperate
ceremony.
enough,
Yeah.
would she, like,
Right.
Twello, you know, you want to?
I know.
Or is she just too fucking repugnant for him?
I hope too fucking repugnant, honestly.
Yeah, I feel like that's where
I feel like at that
was left.
point, he had given her so many opportunities
Yeah.
to change her mind.
Mm.
And it's like, at this point, to give her another, it would just make me frustrated.
Or to at least be like, hey, help me out because I'll give you more info and I'll do whatever you want me to.
Yeah.
Just put me up with my kid for a while.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
know that she's been finally officially burned by Gilead, and I think probably irreparably. I don't think that she would be recovering from it and drinking the Gilead Kool-Aid, as it were, at this point, so she would probably be much more amenable to working with him. But alas, I did love that June agreed to stay with Serena, because we cut to Serena in bed, and she's so nervous. Now, again, not being a mother, I'm going to commiserate with you, or I'm going to leave this to you too. Like, are those sort of like postpartum jitters and nerves and whatnot? Is that normal?
I don't know if it's necessarily postpartum, but it's definitely just nerves. You're right.
I mean, like after birthing.
I don't know if there's it's just typical first mom stuff of like,
Yeah.
she's worried about very normal things,
Yeah.
and June's telling her it's very normal, and she starts talking really fast, and she's trying to report it, and it all just felt very, very much like every new mom.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is normal behavior.
Yeah,
for a
that
mom.
is, yep.
It's just like all of a sudden you have this tiny little thing,
And you got to
that
keep him
is-
alive.
You're
at
in
all
charge
costs,
of,
like,
and they
shit.
seem very temperamental, and there's all sorts
Yeah.
of things that, and now there's something that could be wrong, and you don't know what it is, and they're using all these words, and everything seems so medical, and she starts talking really
Right.
fast, and it's just like
Personal.
it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
And they're giving him formula.
Oh,
I
boy.
love that. I love that.
Oh, my.
so
She
much.
she totally fucking sounds like me like 15 years ago. I'm telling you.
God, that's so funny. Well, I would have been June.
I would have, back in the day, I was totally into all that hippie shit.
There's nothing wrong
Mm-hmm.
with being into it. There's something very different with the formula. Like, it's fucking poison. Relax.
Yeah, back in the day, that's probably what my dumb
That's
ass
what it
thought,
was,
because
then,
my
yeah.
head was up my ass, and like that's just who I was as a person back in the day. Now I'm like, fed is best. Fucking work it out.
Exactly.
That
Whatever
is best.
whatever works best for you and your baby.
Yeah. Serena also just came off of this really traumatic thing, and she thinks people are looking for her. So the fact that she's apart from her baby right now, it's no bueno, no bueno. And then when they're using all that like scary anti-Gilead stuff, like medical knowledge instead of thoughts and prayers, it's sending her into a fucking tailspin. I like their conversation. It's not much, but it's still impactful. Because Serena says, I just want to go home. And she seems so very alone there and sad. Like, she seems sad about it. Like, and I think she was just saying that for the sake of saying it. I know that she logically knows that she doesn't have a home anywhere, but she just wants to feel like she belongs somewhere, I guess. And June says, well, there is no home, Cupcake. It's just wherever you are. And Serena makes a joke.
No man's land. How self-referential.
Right?
It truly brings me immense joy into my sad little dark heart when TV shows and movies are self-referential, and when the meaning is multifaceted.
Yep. Oh boy. It hits all the good spots. And they do say some heartfelt thank you and you're welcome. And as they're parting, Serena looks hopeful and June walks out looking at peace.
She did. And I think that Serena felt like she got the forgiveness that she had been looking for earlier with June. Remember when she had gone to her and was like asking for forgiveness, and June was like, fuck you and your forgiveness. And that was, we've heard Serena say a lot that she doesn't make friends easily and reference that she has no friends. And it's like, well, you know, Serena, can we be surprised? But this was like genuinely on her face. It just felt like this was the first time she was like, I really have a friend. She didn't want to kill me. Yeah. Therefore, I have a friend. Like that's the bar for Serena. And that's what it felt like.
Christ, that's sad.
Yes, it
It
is.
so is. But that's truly how I feel like that's how it went down.
We're no longer no man's land because Luke has strolled on through the door.
Oh, yeah, he did.
Yeah. Now, the first part of their conversation, they're working on asylum for Serena? Did I catch that incorrectly?
I know they were working on the USB.
Okay.
I heard that. I don't recall
have
asylum
anything
anything.
written on
Okay.
asylum, and
I
tried to
heard
write
USB,
everything.
and I was like, I was like, what is a USB?
Oh, I was so excited for you to get this information, and now I realize you didn't get it.
Oh
The
my
one you were
god!
so
I'm
excited
so dumb sometimes, guys. The fucking USB that I like that
That
Luke
you
should
wanted
have probably
to
shoved
know.
up his butt
Yeah.
to like get
So
it, keep
he
it safe. That I
very
was
well
so
may have.
worried about. Thank you
He
so
got it
much.
to tomorrow,
Wow.
and now they're working on it.
Yeah. And I'm sober right now. Maybe that's
so
the
funny.
problem.
Yeah, I was
Oh,
so excited
no.
for you to get that information. I'm like, she's gonna have her answer. She wanted to know what happened to it, and now
Nope.
she'll know.
Nope.
Yep.
Nope. I'm so
Instead, she's going asylum.
I'm so technologically inept that I don't even know what a USB is.
Yeah, it's fair that we kept calling it a thumb drive. I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure it's
that's
the same
true.
exact thing, but it was a different vernacular. I
Yep,
know.
there we go.
Aww.
I'm almost 40. Turn more and more into my parents every day when it comes to technology. Okay, well, anyway, good. So they got the USB.
Yes.
They got the thumbnail drive.
Yep.
Working on it.
Woo!
This conversation confused the shit out of him.
Oh, yes. Luke sees her hands, asks if she's okay, and she said, yeah, I'm okay. Serena had the baby. Luke's response was gold. While you were there?
Yeah.
Yes, Luke.
It's like she's literally speaking a different language.
I know.
As she's explaining everything that they just went through, and he's just like, "What? Okay, but what the fuck does this have to do with you?" And it's just like a whole thing. It is a whole thing, and she just doesn't want to fucking talk about it now because, like, just not here. And then something going on in the background. There are two other dudes, and they're asking about Serena. And June goes over and says, what's going on? She's alarmed. And then we find out that Serena is being detained by Canadian ICE because Luke called them on her ass for leaving the Gilead Center.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. She gave up her diplomatic rights when she left the detention center. Which is why Twella was so insistent
Yeah.
before she got into that vehicle that she needed to watch herself and give her one last chance, despite all of the chances that she had shunned. And June is watching this. Serena asks where her baby is. Your baby is safe. What an answer. What an answer.
That is not a good enough answer.
No, it's not. Hypotheses? Any ideas?
Where the baby is.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. We're not doing that.
I was like, well, I watched episode 8, so I do know where it is.
All right. I have not yet watched episode 8, so I don't know where this baby is. I'm going to find out before next week, though. But Serena is obviously becoming more and more panicked at this point. June is watching from the other side of the glass, confused as to what's happening. Luke explains that, he called because this is justice. This is what's right. I will say this. I know there are some people that, on the interwebs that are giving a lot of flack, like, how dare Luke come in and ruin this?
Yeah.
And he just gets worse and worse. I'm sorry, how is Luke supposed to know about this staggering revelation
I know.
that June and Serena had in the last 36 hours?
No, he finally has an opportunity to be useful.
He has an opportunity
thought
to be
he was
useful and
doing
do
exactly what
Yes.
he needed to do.
Yes.
It's nothing he did wrong other than, he wasn't privy to 5 years of information.
Exactly.
These
Yes.
two have a complicated relationship.
Yeah.
They have an extremely
Get on board,
complicated
Luke.
relationship. And there's no way that she can relay that in this phone call at a hospital desk. No, come get your wife and figure it out later, dude.
Yeah. I mean, she was just dragged away, presumably to her death.
Yeah.
And now she shows up at a hospital and Serena's there.
With her previous
Yeah.
captor.
Right. It's like,
Yeah.
come on, of course. Of course he's gonna.
Yes.
No, I don't. He didn't do anything wrong other than it just feels like in an episode where women were really handling their shit just fine, and then the man shows up and really
Exactly.
fucks it all up. And it's like, if you could just listen to us for a second, we could tell you between the female doctors that are gonna say the best thing for this baby is not to be taken away from the mother right now, for her to be detained, and for June and Serena to speak up instead of listening. You know what I mean? Like, it was just that's what it felt like to me. But I don't think it was Luke's fault in this situation. Obviously, he was doing exactly what he's been trying to do all season.
Exactly. He was finally useful and able to enact some change other than just, looking at building codes.
Yeah.
Like, he did something that was going to create a lasting, sustainable change in Serena's life. How was he supposed to know that these two had reconciled?
Right? Like, they worked it out.
Tormented him.
Yes.
Tormented him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, very recently at the detention
Uh-huh.
center.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At the whatever we're fucking calling that stupid place.
Yeah.
But
Gilead Information Center. Of
like
course.
she had him
The
patted down in prison.
propaganda
That was the other
complex.
imagery that I forgot about in that last episode when I was talking about the imagery that they're using with Luke this season.
Mhm.
No, him showing up to have a conversation with Serena and her having him patted down for absolutely no reason than she could. Like,
Right.
that was another one that I'd forgotten. But there is absolutely an understandable reason why Luke would look at everything he just did and say, this is justice.
Yeah.
This is what we said justice was all season
Yes.
long.
Yes.
We have been
Exactly.
saying this. I
Yes.
feel like Luke saying that this is justice was
Mhm.
us, and I'm assuming every other viewer, because I don't understand
Yeah.
how you weren't
Yeah.
feeling like this would be justice
Mhm.
prior to watching it play out and being like, I guess it doesn't really feel like justice. But Luke didn't watch it play out. June did. We did. It doesn't feel like justice, but Luke doesn't realize that.
Mhm.
Obviously, that's not his fault. It's just the way it was designed
Yes.
to be.
Yeah.
Like, this is as close to retribution as we can get without Serena actually becoming a handmaid.
Yeah.
And for some reason, this just doesn't feel as good as, it did when Fred got what he deserved.
Yeah.
And, like, that's the fucking point. Like, no one should feel good about seeing anyone's child taken away.
Right.
So it's interesting that Luke does this, but I understand it. Like, it's as cruel as something that Gilead would do
Mhm.
to initiate this. But I understand why he did it. I mean, aside from all the shit that Serena has been pulling with him, like at, her center, like the few episodes ago, I mean, she dangled his daughter like a carrot on the world screen
Mhm.
when he hasn't had the privilege of being near her in years. And her, I mean, she actively facilitated. I mean, like, we can say, like, okay, Serena, whatever, however much she had to do with the actual, like, laws and execution of, like, such laws, whatever. We don't have that info, but we sure as fuck know that she knew about a goddamn bombing that, instigated
Right.
all of this.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, when you sit back, like Luke, who has, like, the long backseat view of this, whereas June has been, like, living it and marinating in it in a really extra special way.
Yeah.
I understand why he did it. It sucks, but I fucking get it. As a parent, I understood the need for him to do that.
Mhm.
It is also his child.
Exactly.
Yes,
And it's what you
exactly.
were saying
Yeah.
of her dangling Hannah right in front of him on
Yeah.
the world stage, like you said.
Mhm.
But then on top of that, when he does go to confront her at the information center, she throws it in his face and says that
Right?
why didn't you go fight for like your
Your-
wife did? You fucking bitch. Like that was so
Yeah.
fucked up. Of course he's gonna feel like this
Yeah.
is justice.
Yes.
How would he not feel like this is justice in this moment?
Exactly.
After that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Agreed entirely. And if nothing else, to go back to the previous conversation, or that Serena and June had in the barn, where Serena said, "I'm sorry. I don't care that you're sorry."
Yeah.
And like we've been saying repeatedly in this episode and for the last several seasons, is that eventually Serena is going to have to bear the repercussions of her actions. So it doesn't matter how sorry she is. It doesn't matter if she and June have landed in a good spot.
Right.
Yes, she should be with her child. We all agree with that.
Mhm.
However, there still need to be repercussions to her terrible, egregious actions. The end.
Yeah. Basically, June wasn't going to be the person that was going to take her child away from her.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that is where we are the moral differences is that
Yeah.
Serena would rip a child
Mhm.
from a new mother's arms and give it to someone else because that's what God's will is,
Yep.
or what she would perceive it to be. June would never take a child from their mother. And I think that is ultimately on display, the fundamental difference between these two.
Yeah.
I mean, they obviously have other differences as far as ethos and beliefs and whatnot, but that is the driving wedge between them.
My stomach's making weird sounds. I apologize.
I do apologize for. I found it very powerful that this is the second time this season that we have been left with a scene, or in this case, the episode ending in a woman chained to a hospital bed, screaming her ever-loving brains out.
I know, huh? It's crazy.
God damn. Yeah.
Intensely powerful imagery from both of
Yeah.
them. Visceral, emotional, and not lost on us.
Mm-mm. You know, Marjorie, I think you made a very good point about how, like, you know, it's like June and Serena wrapped everything up like a little bow at the ends, and then Luke came and kind of shit all over it,
Mhm.
you know, purposely, not purposely, whatever.
Yeah.
And this is like enough to send most of us running back to no man's land.
Yeah. Seriously.
Yeah.
Right? Get me to the barn.
Let's go build a fucking condo.
The Wheelers are probably in no man's land, right? They can't operate as Gilead-esque entities if they're not in no man's land, right?
Are they?
I don't-
Oh, I wonder where they are. I thought they were in Toronto.
Yeah, I don't think they're Gilead-esque entities. They
Yeah.
on officially.
Officially.
Yeah,
Officially.
I think they have teams in no man's land.
Yeah.
But they reside in Toronto proper.
Well, Twillo said that Serena was restricted to Gilead-owned property.
So maybe
think
they
she
just
was in
own.
hiding.
Maybe they.
I think
Maybe they just own properties here and there. I mean,
Okay.
yeah.
Just trying to
I think they might have just taken her in. Like, yeah, Canadian government said that, but also like how much are they keeping tabs on her? That
That's true at this
they
juncture.
did mention that they're not really going to watch her all that closely.
Yeah.
So maybe they just don't really fucking care where she went, and maybe the Wheelers knew that.
They do now, though. So it'll be interesting to see how this all pans out. But June's face was so delightfully complex against the glass as well. Both, like a bit, there was vengeance and remorse and just layers upon layers of these emotions. And I don't think she landed on one in particular. And I think that we get to see this balance of her being enraged with Luke, but also, no, this is like serves you right, but also what is going to happen to this child, and it's just overwhelming.
I think it was mostly, maybe it was just overwhelming for me, but just the fact that it was the state and a bunch of men, but the state coming in and saying, no, you don't get to be with your child, mother.
Yeah.
That's going to fuck her up in ways that, like, I didn't take as much of that on her face as, like, the range of emotions that we've seen through like the whole episode, where I think she was grappling with more of it. I thought it was just really more of just the horror of like, I've talked about it a lot. Like basically since she's gotten to Canada, but then this season with like Gilead seeping back over the border, like that's what this felt like. Again, this is like in Gilead as elsewhere. It doesn't feel good to watch the state step in and say, we know better than you.
The feeling that I got from her looking at Serena through the window was simply that she didn't want it to be like this.
Yeah.
Well, ugh. What an ending, man. It just didn't feel as good as you thought it was gonna feel. Like I wasn't sitting there like, fuck yeah, take that baby. Like
because it doesn't feel good to watch a mother be separated from her child.
It doesn't.
I think it felt so good to watch it play out like this, though. I know.
Yeah, I guess if it had to play out, I'd be like, oh, okay, okay, fine, let's do it. Let's do it.
I mean,
I
just
guess
in
we're
terms
getting
of
what
like
we wanted.
in
a way.
terms of Serena finally seeing the light and saying it out loud to June's face, like that. I just never really thought we would get to see.
Yeah.
The way she did it as like, she's come so close so many times, the terribly hard things we do. And the like, I think Fred admitted like that baby's as much pure sense in his mind, but like she hadn't quite been there. Right. And so like, it just felt good to hear her say those things. It felt really good for June to flip that sentence that is just iconic back in her face, but then change the delivery and change the context. It was just that this episode is just, it's gotta be one of my favorites looking back on it years from now. Like I feel like this one's just so good.
It's a masterpiece. It really is.
There was so much that if you're a viewer for 5 seasons, there was just so much payoff there was in the here,
Yes, deeply, deeply gratifying.
I hope they rack up all the Emmys.
And in ways that I never would have imagined. Like we've talked about all the ways that we wanted this to go. And like in the end, after it was over, after I finished the episode, it was just like, yeah, that's better than anything I'd come up with.
So does this mean that my theory that Serena was going to start up the Pearl Girls, or not start up the Pearl Girls, but maybe help, because it's definitely an Aunt Lydia thing, but maybe like help facilitate Pearl Girls? I don't think that she's going that way anymore.
Doesn't seem.
Why do you say that? I totally disagree. I feel like that's totally a thing now, because
no, I don't think so. I don't think Serena will be a part of it.
Why?
Because I just don't think she's going to go
What
that
changed?
way.
What do you think changed? I think this is like Serena. Unless
this is a way for her to stay in Canada or something, to be able to have her cake and eat it too.
It's the perfect. Well, that's what we've seen so far, right? This whole season, we've seen Serena be told over and over again by every single side of the border, you don't have a place here. You don't have a place in Canada. You don't have a place in Gilead. You are this like weird influx, this transitional person. You just don't belong, right? And then on top of that, now she's anti-Gilead, I would say. She's going to have to be anti-Gilead after this. I don't think there's going back, but she's proved me wrong before. But she's still Gilead property, right? So her getting back in with Lydia, a Serena-Lydia alliance is something I would love to watch. And Serena heading the Pearl Girls over in Canada could work. Okay. I could see that, because that brainwashing ideology is not going to get wiped away in one birth. You know what I mean? Right. Like she's going to be able to bring some people. She does believe in aspects of Gilead in ways that I could totally see her being that Pearl Girls something or other in some way. I just think it's a cool idea. I liked it. I thought this episode doubled down on it, so it surprised me for you to be like, well, that's out the window.
What are your feelings? Because I just wasn't getting that.
I mean, realistically, my feelings at present are Serena has been detained by Canadian immigration. I'd like to see where that goes before making any decisions, but I do agree with Marjorie that Serena does believe in some of these Gilead ideologies. How, and those aren't just going to get washed away with one birth, but I'm struggling to see how they're going to how they're going to move her from ICE to being a free agent in Canada. With which to facilitate the Pearl Girls.
Deport her back to Gilead, wouldn't that be what they do? And then she's in Gilead.
Well, she's in Gilead, but then how is she going to facilitate the Pearl Girls?
Because she's going to have to, I don't know what Serena's, obviously this is like, this could be, I don't know when the Pearl Girls start, but we're talking like 10 years. This isn't like she goes back and says, Lydia, I have an idea. Let's sit down and talk.
But Lydia
she's
says it's her idea, though.
But if she gets,
Well, yeah.
but she's gonna have to get deported back to Gilead, right? Like she's not gonna sit in. I don't know what the laws are.
I don't know.
I don't know what. Neither do I. I have no idea.
I don't see her staying in prison for an illegal border crossing for that long. So what they're going to do is kick her ass back to Gilead because that's where she does belong because she's given up all of her other rights. She's not. So unless she petitions for some kind of asylum or refugee and works with the government, in which case they could still send her back as some kind of undercover. Like there's just a million possibilities of things that could happen.
Which is why in this case I'm going to feign not to say anything because I think Scarlett and I think we're both in the same thought of like if and please correct me if I'm wrong, but if Serena's going to be facilitating with the Pearl Girls, she'd be doing it on the Canadian side of things. And now that she's being detained, that's off the table. Well, but that's why I'm not going to deign to speak of it until I see the next episode because I want to see where they go with this.
I'm not talking about next episode. I'm talking about the Testament 3 years from now.
I just want to see what happens with Serena in the meantime before I start hypothesizing about that because I genuinely have no idea.
Yeah, I just think that her and Lydia could work out perfect if she's in Gilead, and I don't see her being a Canadian citizen. And the Pearl Girls over in Canada, like, yeah, she might be in Canada, but she would still be Canadian citizen, right? I mean, a Gilead citizen. If she was working with the Pearl Girls, she's not a Canadian citizen doing it. She'd be a Gilead citizen the same way she was with the information center. That's it. The information center, that's the seeds of Pearl Girls. And I see her still doing that.
I can see her still doing it, but I want to see where I want to just watch the next episode and catch up on the same information that you two have before I start making any like sort of hypotheses.
To be very clear, I'm not talking about the episode whatsoever.
Granted, but
I'm just talking about what we read in the Testaments and what we know about the Pearl Girls and the fact that Serena is right when she says she has no home. She's going to have to figure out a plan B here. She's got some sort of forward momentum now that she does in fact have a life. She's not just a vessel. And what's your next move, Serena? Like, what are your plans? And I just think that Pearl Girls could totally be a thing that she could do. I love that you came up with that idea, and I love it. I thought this episode was like, cha-ching, she's totally going to be a Pearl Girl. And you're like, nah, so it'll surprise me. Sorry.
I mean, it could be the marriage that Serena was hoping for in Gilead was with Aunt Lydia after all.
Oh, boy. Nah, she moves in with Moira. She moves in with Moira and Luke in June.
Her and TBD. I miss her.
It's very Modern Family.
All right.
I think we did it. I think we have wrapped up an episode.
Man.
What say you, my wicked warrior queens?
We did it.
We good? Good. All right.
Fare thee well, friends.